not familiar with the format. I'm just running live casual conversations, so it might take a little while for all the people to join.
Sure.
Okay. So I'd say should be interesting discussions. We have around 1 hour. And for those who don't know, Sam is the member of Interchain Foundation. Is that correct?
Yeah, though I'm wrapping up at the end of the year.
And you said you jet lagged. Where have you been?
Hmm?
You said you jet lagged. Where have you been?
I was in New York for
All
a
right.
week. Visited my parents.
So I guess New York is home. Great city. How long you've been to Berlin now?
I've been in Berlin for 4 years, and yeah, prior to that, I was living in New York for 10 years. My family actually lives just outside of New York, closer to New Haven.
How do you find Berlin? Do you like it? Is it and also is it for Interchain Foundation since the start?
Um, no, I've been at Interchain for 3 years, and prior to that, I did a whole bunch of freelance work. I kind of moved out to work on this protocol called Radical, which kind of decentralized and like dissolved their company, so it doesn't have like a German entity anymore.
Yeah. Is there like anything that annoys you in Germany or Berlin?
Oh, plenty of things that annoy me in Germany.
Give me the main ones.
Just going to be unsurprising, but the bureaucracy is kind of killer. Yeah.
I always say to people, don't go to Germany. It's so boring. I think maybe Berlin is a little bit different. But there is nothing worse than going for a weekend trip to Germany because everything is closed. Like it's the dead cities, and I just hate it so much. I live not far, so sometimes I visit, but for me, it's a little bit boring. Someone surprised you are not in handcuffs, but there is other Sam Bankman-Fried. I hope they are. They mean the other Sam. Um, so we passed Atom 2.0, and this is why I wanted to chat to you because um, like you become really visible entity there, and I'm confident that you are like doing a really great job in educating people about Atom 2.0, and like I didn't see another entity being that active as you are. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I wanted to know how do you feel after the result? Is there disappointment? Is there like does it change trajectory of the direction where the cosmos is heading? Was there something that was you are dissatisfied with during the proposal that was there? Any thoughts?
Yeah, mixed feelings for sure. Uh, I am very pleased with certain aspects of the process. Pretty dissatisfied with other parts. I learned a lot during it. Um, I It definitely killed a lot of momentum to have it be um, vetoed, and and my I don't know. I think there were a lot of people who were like excited and kind of like ready to start doing things, and now we're not really sure what to tell them. So we've kind of just tried to like take time and put a lot of what was planned in Atom 2.0 kind of aside for the time being.
What do you mean that you don't know what to tell to people? Who are the people, right? Like, who are the people that were excited about the coming changes? Is it the
Well,
investors or yeah?
well, certainly the people who are on the paper,
Mhm.
and there were kind of representatives of a number of the core engineering teams, um, and and in terms of like engineering roadmap and scoping and just I don't know, like planning, like that has been um, there's there's no consent from the hub to build anything in Atom 2.0 at this point. Uh, so there's no like you kind of have to just like scope down to interchain security and the things that do seem to have buy-in from the community.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm surprised with this stance. So, um, regarding the outcome, do you think that the governance worked as it's supposed to, or the governance failed?
Um, did the governance work or did the governance fail? Um, Great question. I I mean, a decision was made, and a large proportion of people, felt free to express their opinion and to specifically voice an opinion that this is not the direction that they wanted. Um, so in that sense, I think there's, uh, you know, it proved out that the hub, does have like a degree of agency here that people can say no to things that they don't want. Um, I think that there was a failure um, in finding any kind of compromise or like clear uh, alternative. Um, the If you kind of poll the people who vetoed the proposal, there's a kind of range of voices there, and in my opinion, there isn't really a coalition that's able to posit an alternative vision. So you're kind of left in a situation where like uh, Atom 2.0 was a kind of a whole system, and in absence of that, like what is there? Like there's one there who's kind of like describing anything that's viable.
Mhm.
Uh, so it's not totally clear like who should do that or uh, the only next steps are kind of just proceed as usual with the interchain security um, plan.
Mhm. Yeah, I understand. To be honest, I can hear some disappointment in your voice.
Oh yeah,
We get,
totally disappointed. I
I
mean,
yeah.
that's
Um, I want to. Do you feel that the side, the opposite side, right? My feeling is that the opposite side that was mainly more into no with veto, right? Like I will be open, like this doesn't have to be your opinion. So that there is the side pro Atom 2.0. I think this is inclusion. Interchain Foundation stayed kind of non-biased there, probably, but it was Interchain Foundation was involved in Atom 2.0. Though on the other side, that no with veto was all in beats. Was there anything that you got from the feedback of those who veto, like maybe especially the company all in beats, etc., or it's rather quiet and there is no contact with them when it comes to after the voting?
I believe that Jay and Ethan had a conversation. I was not privy to that. I don't even know if it touched on the hub at all. I mean, you have to kind of understand the situation at all in bits. Like, Jay fired everyone there. There's like a handful of people, but it's mainly him, and he has not, you know, he's made like overtures on Twitter and the forum, but like, to be honest, it feels like he's speaking more to a public audience than he is to us. Like, he's not reaching out to us like directly and trying to have a chat. It honestly feels a little bit underhanded, the kind of tactics that he's using.
Yeah, I understand. I wonder, like, because you as the Interchain Foundation, you surely see the development. Um, is there any development from All in Beats on the hub? Maybe are they contributors? Personal opinion. You don't have to speak for Interchain Foundation.
They helped deploy the Gravity decks, but have not contributed to anything. I mean, they did that independently. It was really the Bee Harvest team that did that, and they kind of like worked with them to ship it. But they haven't updated the decks. They haven't really helped to move it off now that there's been some decision to move it off.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that the AIB has done almost nothing to contribute to the hub in the last 3 years, apart from update the website, and in some instances, you know, do a little bit of the social media management on the Cosmos Twitter account.
The Gravity Dex is Crescent now, right? That's what you're referring. Crescent, it's the Bee Harvest project, or no? But yeah, like the infrastructure is
Well,
theirs, right?
it kind of was forked into the Crescent. It was forked into the Crescent zone, but there is still a Dex on the hub, and it needs to be removed.
Yeah. Look, you said that there is nothing to work with, but I got the impression from the governance that there were people that were saying we like certain parts of Atom 2.0 and we don't like the other parts. Would you say that maybe the authors of the Atom 2.0 paper tried too much at once? Is it?
Oh, I mean, mistakes were made for sure, but I guess you just have to, you know, putting yourself in like the shoes of some of the authors, like there's no mandate to do anything in Atom 2.0. Like, the original white paper doesn't outline any of this, and everything in the original white paper, the Cosmos white paper, has been shipped. So in terms of like the, you know, the foundation's kind of obligations, the core team's obligations, like like we're done. Like, there's nothing left. And now we were trying to kind of like figure out an exciting vision. And it wasn't like it wasn't a no that we got, it was vetoed. And so honestly, it kind of felt like the community was just like, fuck you. And it's not really a place where, as an author, you want to be like, okay, like, yeah, let's re-engage. We just like spent months trying to like very patiently like educate and explain our reasoning, and kind of just got a slap in the face. So like I have no personal obligation to like do anything at this point. Like
Well,
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of waiting for like anyone else to take the next step. And I was really happy to see Simply VC, do the community spend proposal. That feels like, okay, we want like community. Do we want to do something? Do we want to have some resources to put forward for, anything that happens next? And it's nice to see like, yeah, that seems like it's going to pass. But yeah, you don't like veto a proposal and then immediately expect the proposal authors to like do something else. That's kind of like a okay, just stop what you're doing type signal.
well, I want to tell you that I don't think it was fuck you, the veto. I think it was rather the only chance to stop the proposal for people. I think they still didn't feel that it's just signaling proposal. I think there is big distrust. Some of the distrust is probably okay, but some of the distrust is probably unfounded. And I think, like, because yeah, the veto was used, and I would question this because when we look at the veto, I personally don't really like veto vote, right? But I feel like governance worked as it's supposed to. But in most of the governing bodies, when you have veto, it means nothing gets done, right? There was I like to give example from the history of Poland, or rather Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, I think. And there was something called liberum veto. Each member of the parliament could veto, and once it was vetoed, like one veto vote, they had to redo it, and they couldn't do anything ever because it was always vetoed. We have, is it UN nations that you have 5
It's like the
states
filibuster in the U.S.
with
Congress as well.
different benefits, and I think the UN would be maybe similar to Cosmos because there is like Russia, China, right? US, UK, I guess. Not else, no. And each side veto each other, whatever. So it's completely useless institution, actually, but the veto is there. And I think like that they took it like, hey, this is the only way that we could stop this proposal. But there was the tweet of Shane Vitarana, not sure if you know, he's founder of Stargaze, and I think he voted yes, but he said the grandiose plans usually doesn't work, try to do smaller steps. And I think the major feedback for authors of the Atom 2.0 was, don't promise us all of the grand plans. We want to see the interchain security first. And it doesn't mean like that they don't want you to work or they discourage your work. They just feel uncertain about the maybe upcoming steps. Um, I want to ask, what was the first plan that you wanted to ship from the Atom 2.0?
Yeah, the first. Well, I should also just caveat, like I'm speaking from my own personal experience. Like there's still a team working on interchain security. There's still a team, like an integration team, working on getting the next release prepared. But that's kind of it. Like there does need to be consent. And this is kind of the problem. Is like the foundation doesn't really want to like provide the vision, and it was kind of a special case that like I was kind of like sent out on like a special mission, like, hey, the ICF shouldn't really be like leading the hub. We don't like literally don't want to, but there's nothing to build. So we need to kind of like initiate a community process. So like get the core teams together, talk to validators, talk to whoever, like figure out what happens next. And then if we get consent from the community, like, we can maybe work with that. But we did not get consent from the community. So there's no, that bootstrapping process did not work. Mm-hmm. And not only did it not work, but like again, the foundation just doesn't want to be in a position where it's saying what is happening next. So like there needs to be bottom up solutions provided by the community of like, what do we want? Where do we want to go? So, I mean, I have opinions. I responded to Jay's post the other day about kind of the obvious next steps, which is basically ship interchain security, onboard interchain consumer chains. Something needs to happen with the community pool if this thing's going to pass. I think there needs to be a budgeting process, at least just the most bare bones budgeting process, so we don't just hemorrhage funds. And that spend should be put towards some kind of engineering effort, don't know what it's going to be, as well as deployment. I mean, I think there does need to be some kind of like swap type process with interchain secure chains. Otherwise, like that's how you kind of form a long lasting partnership. And if there is agreement that Atom is going to be the reserve currency, that's like kind of the point. You got to put Atom out there. So you got to deploy it into some of these decentralized stable coins, just whatever kind of collateral sinks there are, you want to put Atom there, and there needs to, like the hub has no capability to do that at this stage.
Yes, but interchain security will come, right? I believe Inclusion working on that. Is this correct?
Informal is working on
and
that.
Informal.
Primarily.
So this first step is coming. There is no vision once ahead, right? Rarma saying that he'd like to see a spending prop for development of allocator scheduler be discussed soon. Do you like? So could we assume fairly that after we have interchain security, we can make proposal about the funding that is required? And like, I want to tell you, like, they just wanted to break it down into smaller pieces, and I think it will be okay, and I would love to be the part of discussion as the Rarma is saying here, right? Let's see.
I think the thing I want, like, I think it also needs to be broken down. Like hindsight is 2020. Like we didn't do everything perfectly, but I also just really want to like communicate that like the authors are not going to do everything for you. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be like real constructive discussion and action taken by the community. Like it's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter. Like the whole point
Sam,
of this is that
yeah.
the hub needs to be like an autonomous entity that's like gonna express its own
Mhm.
desires, you know?
I understand. I understand what you say, but I want to say to you that the authors, they should do something, and they should try to pursue. Because saying we wait for community to do something, I can tell you from the perspective of being community member, um, there is much bigger benefits for the authors of the paper than for the community members, because a lot of the authors, they are involved in the financially heavily. I'm saying
Yeah, I mean, you're
inclusion.
speaking to someone who is leaving the Interchain Foundation, so like uh, I mean, I'll be in the hub community. Like I'm turning into a community member,
Mhm,
not a core team member, and so
mhm.
uh, by yeah, I mean, I, I plan to have some relationship to the hub, but the all the authors are like super busy, and there's like a lot of very um, you know, profitable endeavors that they could be involved in. The I don't know, there's
But
no
I understand the authors are busy on working on the hub because that's their main venture, right?
no. I mean, like informal, I would say that is kind of the interchain security is kind of the centerpiece of their engineering effort at the moment. But they
Mhm.
have other projects. Um, the Interchain Foundation, their primary effort is the stack. That is their number one priority, and it needs a lot of resources and attention. Occlusion is involved in many chains, many projects. Uh, Same with Strangelove. Like there's no like exclusive allegiance to the hub. Like the authors came together because they wanted to work on this together, and
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Well, I understand the feeling of community, but it's really difficult up to community because I know the authors of this paper. They benefited heavily from being part of the ecosystem. I'm speaking of Strangelove, Inclusion. They got a lot of funds for the certain development, while the simple community member not necessarily have it. The simple community member is often person who work 9 to 5 jobs. So I
But
feel that.
I'm not totally sure what you mean here. So uh,
Sorry, I lost you for a moment. Yeah, but it's okay now, I think. Hello.
yeah, am I back?
Your internet little. Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
I'm
let
just
me
trying to define
interchain.
the community member, because I felt those authors were really the people that it was core that is involved into development of the cosmos. And despite this community chain, it has the certain entities that are benefitors of the success of the ecosystem. Like, for my perspective, I believe if the hub succeed, Inclusion will be way larger benefitor of that venture than me, for example. So why those authors would have given up? Oh, I see some is no internet. I was talking to myself. Sorry, guys. Um. Uh. Oh yeah. Sorry. Seems you dropped for a moment. Um. Not sure if you caught. I was saying about the scope of the community, that I you know I think we need to see the leadership, and whether it's inclusion or someone, because the inclusion will be, if the hub is successful, those guys will be successful. So even if it was rejected, their work could be heavily incentivized, right? And I believe more than like some smaller members of community, right? So I don't know why some people would actually feel like giving up, but I understand some of the bad feelings that is there, right?
Sure. But yeah, Strangelove, Occlusion, like these are community members. Like they those entities did not receive any Genesis allocation. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, Jack was part of the original Tenorment, and Zaki was, so that they are pretty bought in. But Strangelove as a team, Occlusion as a team, like no, like these are private businesses, and they're going uh, to do what's in their best interest from a from a business perspective.
Mhm.
Um, and they get they have a contract with the ICF to do some service contract to do some work on a yearly basis. It's uh, pretty much at cost of um, there's very little upside, to be perfectly honest, with the service agreement. Um, so these are kind of as much community members as anybody else. Like they just maybe have a slightly larger atom bag personally, a couple of people in the organization.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, I've heard this said in the past, like it could actually be more lucrative for these entities to work on other things. Um, I don't know. I would just dismiss the notion that like these entities owe the community anything.
Mhm. Mhm. um I remember the words of Zaki. The words of Zaki was that there was investors, and the large entities that are invested in Cosmos were stating that the Cosmos tokenomics has to change. Who like not sure how much you can share, but like could we like more precise why they were not happy with the modern tokenomics, and why there is such a push for the change, and if possible who are the entities?
Yeah, I was not talking to. I can only speak to my own opinions there. I
Mhm.
mean, Zaki's speaking to everybody under the sun, so I'm not really privy to those conversations. Um, the There's a couple ways to answer this. So when you when you're talking about tokenomics, there's also a couple things that you could be talking about. One is the value accrual mechanism,
Mhm.
and the second is basically like the supply schedule and um, how inflationary the token is. Um, and there's kind of two schools of thought about the inflationary piece. So if you care about atom price, if you care that the atom price is $20 and goes up to 21, goes up to 22, then like you you want to avoid having an exponentially increasing supply. However, uh, if you are comfortable with atom price going down, but the number of atoms that you accrue because you're getting staking rewards um, increasing, then you can have an exponentially increasing supply. So because at a certain point, if you're just completely staked, then all you're doing is redenominating atom. You're just saying,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna print more atom, but then I'm gonna give myself exactly the pro rata share of the amount that I printed. So
Mhm.
it, it's a little bit more of like a optics thing. Um, but optics does matter. Um, so and there's different kind of like very like marginal theories on either side. So like the exponential supply or like the increasing supply thing, like maybe you believe in the Cantillon effect, and so then there's some kind of like basically market information asymmetry that like makes it so that the overall price or the overall market cap is increasing uh, as you're inflating, as you're basically diluting or like inflating the supply. Or if you're more in the like hard cap camp, then you know you have kind of like a Bitcoin type mindset where like, okay, like we're going to be hoarding and trying to create some kind of social positive feedback loop that's like around accumulation and fixed supply. And so that's all I'll say about the supply schedule. The tokenomics, this really depends on what you think Atom is for and what you think the hub is for. The proposed role of Atom in the Atom 2.0 paper was as this interchain reserve. So it should be the preferred collateral for stablecoins, for lending protocols, stuff like that. It should be like a pristine reserve. And notably, it does kind of help if you have stronger guarantees around the supply schedule in that for that specific role. And that's why the original paper proposed to like have this completely fixed, like constant supply schedule for that specific reason, that like you would know without a doubt that 6 months from now this is the exact supply schedule. So I can kind of leverage it as a more predictable like reserve asset. Anyway, that was the proposed role of Atom, and then the really the role of the hub is just this kind of deployment mechanism for Atom, like interchain security, as well as like the allocator schedule system is supposed to just kind of like throw off Atom and like kind of put it into the ecosystem, make sure that it's incorporated into exchange processes, like things like that. That said, Atom 2.0 was not accepted. So these things are like not. I hope that those core ideas like make it, penetrate the psyche of the Atom holder. That feels like the most important thing. But it's I wouldn't say that there's like full buy-in at this stage for that thesis.
Yeah, I understand, but for me the tokenomics was bigger because I couldn't see why there is such a push for change, and you did explain that, right? But I with the words why investors were pushing, I didn't really know, because it seemed like those big investors had a lot of staked assets, and they are indeed like benefitors of 20% of APR now, right? So even in the value is decreasing, essentially the value is becoming
People need to
larger.
forget about APR. Like the APR doesn't mean anything if your if your token price is being depressed at the exact same value or like level as the APR. Then you're just netting zero. What people should be caring about is net value of the hub itself, like amount of value that the hub represents. Like that is the only thing that really matters.
Yes, but at the same time, one could say the fact that we are capping and predicting the tokenomics, even if there is hard cap, it also doesn't mean that the token will grow in value,
No,
right?
absolutely not.
Mhm.
And but the perspective that you should be taking on this is like is, in my opinion, what the paper was trying to do is like what is the capital function of Atom, and how do we design it to be the best possible thing for that function?
Mm-hmm.
So if there are there are roles of money that like make sense where you have an inflationary supply. I mean, the US dollar is like, I think there's some argument to be made that like inflation, at least a modest amount of inflation, is helpful for a kind of like uh, to increase the demand for spending.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in this kind of reserve role, you really want, at the very least, predictable supply. So even if you have exponential inflation, you would want to know what exactly the um, what degree exponent are you using. You want like fixed um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, deterministic inflation schedule. That's the very least that you would want, in my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it's hard to predict to what will be the right issuance schedule, right? And as everyone says, inflation is monetary phenomenon, and I don't think many people till now understand the money, right? I like the statement saying like, if you have inflation 3% a year, but the money supply increased 6% a year, do we live in the deflationary or inflationary environment? Because over that would actually contribute to the cheaper products in the in the long term in comparison to the your increasing of your value. Like I know you are capped, so I want to ask a little bit also about the Interchain Foundation. Just at the end, is USDC still coming to the hub?
Uh, I mean, it, it needs to be accepted by Atom governance. I
Hmm.
you know have less confidence in Atom governance than I did 3 months ago, but I it's still being worked on. If you look at the interchain security testnets,
Hmm.
there are uh, there's a chain that is testing, um, and it has the kind of USDC issuance capabilities.
Hmm.
So if Atom holders don't fuck this up, then yeah, it should be coming.
Well, I mean, like like I always feel like the governance is sometimes disappointing, but it, I'm in Hong Kong, and there is the horse races, and there is one famous gambler, and I remember his words that actually, like, that he always looked how community bets, like how population bets, because he said they are actually quite good, and I feel the community is quite good at, like, not always, but I still believe they quite good in trying to understand what's beneficial for them, but of course um mistake happen. Liquid staking, the one thing I wanted to ask, because the problem with liquid staking that i
Mm-hmm.
I spoke with few people. In case of liquid staking, you kind of rely on the incentives from the chain that provides liquid staking, and
Mm-hmm.
those incentives not always might be there. So essentially, the liquid staking, after the cut of the fee from the provider, might not be as beneficial, and that could lead actually not to increase liquid staking, that it could end with the people deciding to keep original atoms, and then during panic, of course, the price could depeg. um do you think we could get something better than liquid staking? Any thoughts on that?
No, I don't. I mean, proof of work. um, that's kind of your alternative.
Do you think it's possible? Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I mean, this is why I think there needs to be competition in the liquid staking market, so that there's the end product is in the best interest of users. That's gonna make it so that each of these liquid staking protocols is kind of competing on, as little rent extraction as possible, increased security, and ultimately, like, it should, draw out Atom into the liquid staking system, because they're going to be kind of competing for market share of Atom. So that would be good for this reserve asset phenomenon.
Do you think, because I think like we always get the innovation, and I spoke to someone and this person said that there is actually a chance to use your staked assets as kind of collateral and issue bonds against that. They seem like it could provide you with more opportunities than liquid staking, isn't it? Like, so don't you think that we could be actually continue development to that would provide the community with even more value extractable value? Oh, sorry, not sure if I make sense.
You're frozen on my end. I don't know if you can hear me.
I hear you, but I had some issue with internet, I think.
Okay. Well, I'll just keep talking. Yeah, I mean, so this is, is issuing debt a better approach than liquid staking? I mean, in some senses, you could call liquid staking a debt instrument. I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch, but what does liquid staking get you? It gets you an obligation. It's kind of a right to future cash flows that are coming off the protocol. Like, that basically is debt. So it's kind of just a same thing with a different name. It allows for the same kind of rehypothecation that people are talking about. So I think it's also important to understand, like, the whole, like, mesh security interfluid staking thing, that is also liquid staking. Like, it's also rehypothecation of funds. Like, there's no free lunch, basically. Like,
Yes.
At the end of the day, what's happening is you are using the intrinsic capital of the system for security. Like, that is proof of stake. And you're like, the market is saying, hey, we want to also do something else with this. That's rehypothecation. So, like, as soon as you've committed to the something else, like, now you're in liquid staking world. And so the only way to get out of it, in my opinion, is basically just to do, like, a proof of work, or decouple the capital system from the security system in some way.
Understand. Yeah, like we have a few minutes. I want to ask about the Interchain Foundation, about the role in the community. Am I back, by the way? Is all good?
Yeah,
Because I know my internet was like dropping. Could you tell me, like, what is the Interchain Foundation role there? Is the role simply serving the Cosmos community and providing funding for the development that enrich the ecosystem, correct?
Yeah, I mean, they have kind of like a order of precedence, and, like, their mission, like, their primary mission is to help, like, the interchain,
Mm-hmm.
succeed as a whole. And so like that's why their first emphasis is really like the public goods
Mm-hmm.
ecosystem, Tendermint, IBC, SDK, etc. Um, and particularly now that like the hub has been shipped and like there is no mandate to like do anything else from a, I don't know, like investor perspective. The the impetus to like fund and do things around the hub is like they're kind of just an investor like anybody else. They have a large atom bag, and so they do want to see the like that bag
Mm-hmm.
allow them to continue to fund public goods. And so that's kind of like where their interest um, in continuing to help with interchain security comes from. But they also have like I was saying before, like they are not trying to play a leadership role in the hubs in the hub. Like they explicitly want like distance and so they want like direction and like emergent leadership to form.
Mm-hmm. Um, Regarding the banks, there was some claims that the Interchain Foundation have a lot of funds. I don't know, like, does Interchain Foundation has also other assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and are they able to disclose the holdings or not? Uh,
Yeah, I think there's a report in the works.
mhm.
I don't, like I said, I'm on my way out, so I don't really have like any special knowledge there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll leave that for others to comment on. I know they're trying to get to like quarterly reports of their assets, but yeah, they have Bitcoin and Ethereum
And
um,
mhm.
and fiat.
I know Interchain is also the investor in some projects. For example, Agoric and many others. They get. Could you speak if those investments were like providing them with additional like funding? Because I feel Interchain is able to be quite early, so I believe they are like able. I wonder to know like is the Interchain Foundation expanding their reserves or they actually are shrinking?
Um, I actually made a couple investments on behalf of Interchain when I was there, so I kind of like started that program. I mean, the Agoric investment happened very early on. That there were these are not really profit-seeking investments. They're more like strategic.
Mhm.
We want to get strong players into the ecosystem and
Mhm.
like form a partnership with them. Agoric is a great example. Like, incredibly strong team. Helped develop and specify the IBC protocol. Like that was kind of where the investment came from and how it was formed. Like, okay, if we make this investment, we can like work on this together more effectively. um, there will likely be a positive yield on those investments, but it's a little bit incidental. Um, Also, it's also worth noting like the size of these investments is quite small
Mhm.
relative to like the holdings. So it's not a um, really a yield seeking
Mhm.
business line. And um, and to be honest, now that I'm on my way out, I don't really see it
Mhm.
continuing to any large extent.
Yeah, I understand. I know Interchain also do the grants, and I'm trying to learn what are the fair grants because there was some discussion. Is there
Yeah, the
any
grants
cap?
program's pretty much spun down at this point.
Mhm.
I ran the grants program as well for a couple of years
May I know
during my
what
day.
was the rules of that? Like, what was the cap for the grant? Was there like a requirement of open source, etc.?
There was a requirement for open source. Everything was open source. I think there was maybe a single exception, which was like 90% uh, the of like a project was open source, and there was like one component that was not, and we like just
Mhm.
tried to not fund that one piece. So everything is open source. That's like been the case since the beginning. Not only is it open source, but it's like we really have a strong preference for Apache 2, which we feel is just net beneficial for the ecosystem as a whole. I mean, we can get into the like GPL versus Apache kind of philosophy there, but basically allows for commercial commercial use and like wider adoption. So somebody could build a traditional business off of an Apache piece of software a little bit more easily, and we thought that that was beneficial for ecosystem growth. Like the grants program is really not active at this point. It's really just focused on the Tendermint SDK, and at least until the bear market is over, like the foundation's trying to be kind of conservative because it's the only funder of these things right now. So if like Tendermint stops getting resources, like the ecosystem is in trouble. So like that needs to be like this bare minimum for keeping the lights on. But like when the grants program was active, there were, I think like there was basically two tiers. It was like 100K and under and 100K and over. And there were very
Was there a
limited
limit
number.
on the over? Sorry.
Hmm?
Was there any limit, or it was even like million, 2 million, or?
There's typically like a yearly budget overall for spend. And so then it was kind of piecing together like what makes sense within that allotted amount. But yeah, so there's just kind of like individual ROI calculation. Is this worth it? Is this overpriced? This is kind of what I was saying about the hub. Like the hub has no facilities to do this right now. Like there's this Prop 89 thing, and it's like, is that a good idea? Can we do? Are there people who are doing it better? Like, how does this fit in relation to like how much Atom we have to spend over the course of the next year? And like, there's, I don't really have an opinion one way or the other about like whatever this one piece of spending is, but like, if we were able to say, okay, there's going to be 1 million atoms spend this year, and we're going to spend 10% of that on like communications, marketing, whatever. So like 100,000 atoms. Now you could start to say, well, how do we best spend 100,000 atoms? Like, how do we get the most out of our money, most for our money? Like, only at that point could you say, well, yeah, this might make sense. Like, or maybe we should like invite this other partner to like do XYZ. Like I think we're going to be in store for like a world of pain if this is how the community pool operates. Like to be perfectly honest, like I don't care about this one spending proposal. Like I don't want to think about it. I don't want to look at it. Like I want to delegate it to somebody, or at least like just have some basic check boxes that allow somebody to say like, yeah, no, just to make these things a little bit more efficient. Having the amount of like brain power and like mental attention that this one grant proposal is going to require is absurd. It's such a waste of time.
I understand. It's a weird. To me, it seems weird use of governance. To be honest,
like I said, like, I actually don't have an opinion about the specifics of the proposal, but like that's kind of the point. Is like
I imagine it would be very like because we have a lot of large validators, right? And for some of them, you get the proposal, and it's like funding on random thing that the large validator never heard of. And it's like, how do I vote? I hit yes, I might overthrow the governance that is maybe ridiculous or maybe it's not, right? So like it's the governance is truly difficult. Sam, so are you still hopeful about the hub?
Um, Mixed. The hub is going to continue. It's going to keep doing its thing. Thankfully, the role that was laid out in Atom 2 and seems like the path of least resistance is, kind of just focuses on Atom, the asset. So like the worst case is basically like Ethereum or Bitcoin or something else kind of taking that reserve status. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely more bearish on top level governance and honestly, like I don't know, like if you're an interchain secured, if you're a consumer chain, I feel like you probably went through this process and you're like, this is a fucking clown show. Like, why am I building here? Like, what is going on? Like so I don't think it really reflects well on just the overall kind of system and its integrity. That it feels like the community can't kind of get its shit together.
With this part, I would agree so much. Like now, seeing what's happening, it's so difficult for me to understand why chain would choose interchain security, to be honest. But maybe it's bad thing to say. I think it will be very difficult for all parties involved, for the chain, for the
I'm
hub, for the
hoping. I
validators.
mean, the interchain secured, like this cohort is very, very strong. Like
Mhm.
I've been talking to a lot of teams. It's super impressive. I mean, every single one of them, like really excited to work with them more. And to be honest, I hope that the quality of these teams and like their needs actually kind of raise the bar of the Atom community as a whole. They're going to be expressing like pretty uh, sophisticated preferences that the that the hub community is going to need to like they're going to need to level up to actually
Mhm.
uh, serve these entities more effectively.
Well, I guess we just have to trust the market. Um, you said you are on the way out. What is the way out? Where are you going?
Yeah, I've been at Interchain Foundation for 3 years. My mandate coming in was like I literally came in like right after the Tendermint on Bits breakup, and so the mandate was like it was like me and Billy. It was like save Cosmos. Like Cosmos is going to die. Like make sure that it doesn't die. Like ship IBC, get people building in the ecosystem, like get capital in the ecosystem, get interesting things. And there's a lot of just like throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And I think we can pretty confidently say like the ecosystem's like doing well. It's like um, it's in a pretty good place. The one kind of missing piece there was the hub, was Atom, like particularly because Atom has this kind of circular relationship with the foundation itself, and like the foundation is the one funding public goods. So it's like, okay, we need to make sure that Atom is okay. So that's kind of where Atom 2.0 came from. and I think that I've left the hub community like better than when I started it. I mean, I worked really extensively with the Haifa team to kind of get, revamp the forum to kind of try to increase the sophistication of like public discourse. And I think we've done a lot there. So yeah, like I said, I'll still be kind of a community member, but my like official role is coming to an end, and I feel like it was a good place to kind of punctuate my time at Interchain. As far as what happens next, I've just been talking to a bunch of teams to see what's up. Like I've been kind of focused, and that's been really fun to just like see what people are interested in, their problems, and so for at least a little while, I just want to like kind of advise and help teams be successful. There's some general kind of domains of interest. For a long time, I've been interested in the kind of the fee system. I actually ran a working group for the SDK for a year that was trying to rethink the fee model, IBC fee model. This is like right after IBC launched. And now that's kind of evolved into the MEV conversation. Like there's a couple different like business models around cross-chain transactions, and that's something that I'm going to be trying to think about a little bit more and work towards improving. And then the whole kind of like DAO governance ecosystem. I mean, I feel like I learned a lot from Adam too, but also, yeah, I mean, I was the product lead for the SDK governance system. I've just been like done a lot of work on that, and we have a long way to go there. So I'm trying to speak to some teams that are just starting to kind of figure out their governance and help them to like avoid some mistakes that that I've seen in the past.
What are your favorite projects in the ecosystem? Also, I don't know, like I can't comment. I wonder if I block the comments, but anyway, like that's for the people. Do you have favorite projects that you really like, enjoy using in the ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really rooting for privacy projects in the ecosystem. I think it's so Penumbra and Anoma. Secret, I have some reservations about, given particularly given recent events. Although their community is amazing. Yeah, I mean, it feels like we won't have succeeded like as an industry, as a kind of cultural project if we don't have privacy by default. So I really want to make sure that, yeah, I would like to see those really take off. Yeah, I mean, there's some great projects in the ecosystem. I mean, too many to name. I'm not sure I really want to play favorites.
Yeah, I also heard Penumbra and Anoma. Henry from Penumbra, I heard a lot of great words about him. With some of the interviews, about Anoma a little more, but I hear a lot of talks about these two projects. Some they have certainly survived the previous troubles. It's still here. It's bigger. It's with IBC. So despite we have troubles now, I'm hopeful that it might be darker ahead. Maybe not. Maybe yes. We never know. and I hope you will be valid community member and you can continue providing yourself valuable. Thank you for your time, and hopefully um, I can speak again with you maybe when you will be engaged with something else, some other project. Thank you.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Take care. Bye bye.